While drinking with her friends, she proudly said, "One guy? Please, I can handle more than that." They cheered and laughed. She didn't realize I was within earshot. I stayed silent, but when the truth caught up to her weeks later, she finally stopped laughing. I was supposed to be meeting my buddies for a poker night, but I left my wallet at home like an idiot. I knew my girlfriend, Sydney, was having drinks with her friends at a bar just a block away from our apartment, so I figured I'd swing by, grab my card from her, and head out. I walked in and saw them at a booth in the back, laughing and taking shots. I was heading over when one of her friends, a girl named Zoe, raised her glass and said something about Sydney being a legend. I slowed down, curious. That's when I heard it. Sydney, with her voice loud enough for the whole section to hear, bragging. "One guy? Please, I can handle more than that." The table erupted. They cheered, they laughed, they toasted her. She soaked it all in, a queen holding court. She didn't see me standing by the pillar, not 10 feet away. I just stood there, completely still. It wasn't a joke. The way she said it, the way they reacted, it was real. This was a known thing, a celebrated thing. The anger I should have felt never came. Instead, it was like a switch flipped in my brain. All the little weird things from the past few months suddenly made sense. The late nights she said were with her book club. The weekend trips with friends I was never invited on. The way she guarded her phone like it was a state secret. I didn't confront her. I didn't make a scene. I just quietly backed away, walked out of the bar, and went home. The poker game was forgotten. My new game was figuring out just how deep this rabbit hole went. When I got to our apartment, the first thing I did was something I'd never done before. I went to her tablet, the one she used for casual browsing, and left logged into everything. I wasn't looking for messages. I was looking for patterns. I found her calendar app. It looked normal at first. Work meetings, gym sessions, brunch with friends. But then I noticed a second, hidden calendar layered underneath the main one. It was color-coded. Each color was a different name. Blue was Ben, green was Marcus, red was Liam. My name wasn't on there at all. I was the default. I was the white space between the colors. I clicked on a few of the entries. Drinks with Ben, 8 p.m. Marcus, weekend trip, Liam lunch. It was a schedule, a rotation, meticulously organized. It wasn't just cheating, it was time management. I sat there for a long time, just looking at it. The sheer arrogance was breathtaking. She wasn't just juggling other men. She was scheduling them like appointments, all while living in an apartment where I paid 2/3 of the rent. A plan started to form in my head. A simple one. She thought she could handle more than one guy. Fine. I was going to give her exactly what she wanted. I was going to put all of her guys in one room with her and watch her handle it. I took a picture of the calendar with my phone. Then I closed the tablet, put it back exactly where I found it, and went about my night. When she came home a few hours later, smelling like cheap tequila and perfume, she asked where I'd been. "Had to cancel on the guys," I said, not looking up from my book. Feeling a little tired. "Oh, poor baby," she said, kissing the top of my head. "You worked too hard." I just smiled. She had no idea how hard I was about to start working. Update 1. The first step in my plan was to learn everything I could about the names on the calendar. Ben, Marcus, and Liam. I needed to know who they were, what they did, and most importantly, what they looked like. Sydney's arrogance was my greatest tool. She was so confident in her system that she got sloppy. I started with her social media. She had me blocked from seeing her tagged photos, a red flag I had previously dismissed as her wanting privacy. I created a fake account, a generic profile of a girl in another city, and sent follow requests to her and all her friends. Within a day, Zoe and another one of her friends had accepted. Their accounts were public. It was like opening a door she had tried to lock. The tagged photos were a treasure trove. It took me less than an hour to put faces to the names. Ben was a guy from her yoga class, always in the background of her group pictures, always standing a little too close. Marcus was a slick-looking finance bro, tagged with her on a work trip to a ski resort a month ago, a trip she told me was with her female colleagues. Liam was a musician in a local band. She had dozens of pictures from his shows, always with captions about supporting local artists. I now had their full names and faces. A little more digging gave me their professions. their hobbies, and their social circles. They were all completely different types of guys, occupying separate orbits around her. They didn't know each other. They didn't know about me. Each one thought he was the special one, or at least one of a very select few. With this information, I started to lay the trap. Sydney's birthday was in 5 weeks. It was the perfect excuse. Every year she loved to throw a huge party, always insisting on planning it herself to make sure it was perfect. This year I was going to help. I brought it up one night over dinner. "Hey, we should start thinking about your birthday party," I said. "Let's do something big this year. You deserve it." She lit up. "I was thinking the same thing. Maybe we could rent out that private room at the Grove?" "Perfect," I said. "Let's make a guest list. I want to make sure we invite everyone important to you." Over the next week, we sat together on the couch, making the guest list. She'd name her friends, her family, her coworkers. I'd type them into a spreadsheet. Then I started my suggestions. "What about that guy from your yoga class? Ben, right? He seems cool. We should invite him." She froze for a second. "Oh, I don't know if he'd want to come. It's more of a close friends thing." "Nonsense," I said. "You guys hang out all the time. It would be rude not to. I'll grab his contact info from Zoe's page." I did the same for the others, using information I had gathered. "Hey, wasn't that guy Marcus on that ski trip with you? We should invite him and his work friends. Make it a real party. You should definitely invite Liam and his band. Maybe they'd even play a song for you. It would be epic." For each one, she had a moment of panic, a flash of fear in her eyes. But how could she say no? Refusing to invite these friends would be an admission of guilt. She was trapped by her own lies. By the end of the week, Ben, Marcus, and Liam were all on the official guest list for her birthday party. She had no choice but to send them the invitations. The next part of the plan was to sow the seeds of chaos. I needed to make sure that on the night of the party, each of these guys felt like they had a special claim to her. I started subtly dropping information to Sydney, knowing she would pass it on. "You know," I said one night, scrolling on my phone, "my cousin just got engaged. His girlfriend gave him this really nice watch as an engagement present. Pretty cool idea." 2 days later, I saw a charge on our shared credit card statement for a very expensive watch. I knew it wasn't for me. It was for one of them. She was marking her territory. I did the same with vacations. "My buddy just got back from a weekend trip to the coast with his girlfriend," I mentioned. "He said it was super romantic. We should do something like that soon." A week later, I overheard her on the phone, talking in a low voice about a surprise beach trip she was planning. She wasn't talking to me. I was building a narrative in each of their minds. Each one was being led to believe that he was on the verge of becoming the main guy. The watch, the planned trip, the constant attention, it was all designed to inflate their egos and their expectations. The final touch was the party itself. I took care of all the logistics. I booked the venue, I hired the DJ, and I arranged for an open bar. I wanted everyone loose and talkative. I also hired a photographer, a friend of a friend, telling him I wanted lots of candid shots of the night. "Capture all the little moments," I told him. The stage was set. The actors were all invited. The script was written by Sydney herself, a tangled mess of lies and half-truths. All I had to do was sit back and watch the premiere. Her birthday was going to be a night she would never ever forget. Update 2. The night of the party arrived. Sydney was a nervous wreck, but not for the reasons I knew. She was stressed about her dress, about the decorations, about whether enough people would show up. She was completely oblivious to the social minefield she had laid for herself. A minefield I was about to guide her through. She looked stunning, I'll give her that. She was wearing a sparkling dress that was designed to be the center of attention. As we walked into the private room at the Grove, I could see she was in her element. The music was playing, the bar was open, and her friends were all there, ready to celebrate her. I played the part of the doting boyfriend. I got her a drink, I introduced her to some of my work friends who had come, and I made sure the photographer got a few nice shots of us together. Then I faded into the background. The guests of honor started to arrive. First came Ben, the yoga guy. He brought her a thoughtful, expensive-looking gift bag. She gave him a long, intimate hug, whispering something in his ear. I saw him glance over at me with a look of smug pity. He thought I was the clueless boyfriend. He was right, just not in the way he thought. Next came Liam, the musician. He was with his bandmates, all of them looking too cool for the room. He handed Sydney a single rose and kissed her on the cheek, letting his hand linger on her waist for just a moment too long. She laughed and led him over to meet some of her friends. The final piece, Marcus the finance bro, arrived fashionably late. He was loud, confident, and carrying a bottle of champagne that probably cost more than my car payment. He didn't hug Sydney, he kissed her. A quick but definite kiss on the lips, right there in the middle of the room. I saw Ben's face tighten from across the bar. Liam, who was talking to a group nearby, stopped mid-sentence. Sydney, to her credit, was a master of chaos. She handled the moment with a panicked grace, laughing it off and quickly pulling Marcus into the crowd. But the seeds were planted. The three of them were now in the same room, and they had all seen each other's interactions with her. The air was thick with unspoken questions. My job for the rest of the night was to be a facilitator of awkwardness. I made a point of introducing them to each other. Ben, have you met Marcus? Marcus is a friend of Sydney's from her old work trip, I'd say, with a friendly smile. Ben and Sydney do yoga together. I'd watch them shake hands, their eyes sizing each other up, a silent battle of egos playing out in a handshake. I did the same with Liam. Liam, man, great to see you. This is Ben. He's a good friend of Sydney's. I was connecting the dots for them, drawing lines between the separate worlds Sydney had so carefully built. She kept trying to run interference, pulling them into different conversations, keeping them physically separated. It was like watching someone try to juggle chainsaws. The turning point came about 2 hours into the party. The open bar had done its job. Marcus, fueled by champagne and arrogance, decided to make his move. The DJ put on a slow song. Marcus walked straight up to Sydney, who was talking with Ben, and cut in. He pulled her onto the dance floor, his hands firmly on her hips. Ben was left standing there, looking furious. He walked over to the bar and ordered a double whiskey. Liam, who had been watching the whole thing from across the room, put down his beer and started walking towards the dance floor. I knew this was the moment. I found the photographer. Hey, I said. I think Sydney and her friend are about to have a really funny moment on the dance floor. You should get a shot of it. He nodded and aimed his camera. Liam tapped Marcus on the shoulder. Excuse me, man, he said, his voice tight. I think it's my turn. Marcus turned around, a smirk on his face. Sorry, pal. Find your own girl. She's not your girl, Liam shot back. Before it could escalate further, Ben was there, whiskey in hand. Actually, he said, his voice slurring slightly, I think both of you need to back off. Sydney and I have something special. The three of them were now standing in a circle on the dance floor, with Sydney in the middle, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. The music had stopped. Everyone was watching. The photographer's flash was going off like a strobe light. Sydney looked around desperately, her eyes landing on me. She had a pleading look on her face, begging me to come and save her, to fix the mess she had created. I just stood there, by the bar, and raised my glass in a silent toast. She could handle more than one guy, after all. Now was her chance to prove it. Final update. The scene on the dance floor was the climax of a disaster movie Sydney had written, directed, and starred in. The three of them, Ben, Marcus, and Liam, started arguing, not yelling, but that tense, low-voiced arguing that's almost worse. Each one was staking his claim, revealing little details that contradicted the others. She's planning a trip to the coast with me next month, Marcus declared. That's funny, Ben countered, because she just bought me a $2,000 watch as an anniversary gift. Liam just laughed. An anniversary? We've been seeing each other for 6 months. She told me she was breaking up with her boring, long-term boyfriend. That boyfriend, of course, was me, and I was standing not 20 feet away. The whole room heard it. Every friend, every coworker. The silence was absolute. Sydney just stood in the middle of them, speechless. The web of lies was too tangled. There was no escape. She finally did the only thing she could. She burst into tears and ran out of the room, pushing past her friends who were staring in stunned silence. The party died a quick and awkward death after that. Her guests of honor, realizing they had all been played by the same woman, just sort of glared at each other and then left in separate directions. Her friends, including Zoe, couldn't even look at me. They just gathered their things and scurried out. I stayed. I paid the photographer, I tipped the bartender, and I thanked the hosts for a memorable evening. When I finally left, the room was almost empty. I didn't go back to our apartment that night. I had already packed a bag and booked a hotel room. I knew the apartment would be the last place on earth I wanted to be. My phone started blowing up almost immediately. Dozens of texts and missed calls from Sydney. Voicemails that ranged from furious accusations to pathetic, sobbing apologies. I didn't listen to a single one. The next day, I went to the apartment to get my things. I had asked 2 of my biggest friends to come with me, just in case. Sydney was there, her eyes red and swollen. She tried to block the door. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't," I replied, moving past her. "I already heard everything I need to know. Your friends heard it. The whole world heard it." She followed me around the apartment as I packed, alternating between begging and blaming. She said I had humiliated her. She said I had ruined her life. "You did this, Sydney," I said, taping up a box. "You bragged about being able to handle multiple guys. All I did was get them all in the same room. I thought you'd be happy to have all your friends there for your birthday." The sarcasm was lost on her. She just kept crying, saying it was a mistake. It took me less than an hour to pack my essentials. As I was walking out the door for the last time, she asked me, her voice cracking, "What am I supposed to do now? The lease is in both our names. I can't afford this place by myself." I stopped in the doorway and looked back at her. "I guess you should have thought about that," I said. "Maybe Ben, Marcus, or Liam can help you out. Good luck." The fallout was total. I broke the lease on the apartment, which cost me a significant penalty, but it was worth every penny to sever that final tie. Sydney had to move back home with her parents. Her social life was a wasteland. The story of her birthday party became legendary in our circle. She was a punchline. Her friends, embarrassed by their own complicity, distanced themselves from her. Zoe apparently told a mutual friend that she was mortified and had no idea it was that serious. Ben, Marcus, and Liam all disappeared from her life, of course. I heard that Marcus and Ben actually had a very awkward conversation a few days later, as they worked in buildings that were close to each other. They compared notes and realized just how expertly she had been playing them. As for me, I got my own place, a smaller and cheaper apartment that was all mine. The peace is indescribable. I took some time for myself, reconnected with my own hobbies, and focused on my own life. About 2 months after the party, I ran into Sydney at a coffee shop. She looked tired and unhappy. She tried to talk to me, to apologize again. I just shook my head. "Sydney, I have nothing to say to you," I said, and I walked away. The revenge wasn't about the party. It was about the truth. She had built a life based on lies, and all I did was turn on the lights. She didn't just lose me. She lost the entire audience for her one-woman show. She bragged that she could handle more than one guy. In the end, she couldn't even handle herself. And that's a kind of justice that no amount of laughter can drown out.